There is nothing awesome about coronavirus, but there is about Fridays, and we're grateful we can spend this Friday in our studio. If travel and work restrictions keep our team out of the studio in the days ahead, we still plan to produce our show. We'll post it on our YouTube channel, so please subscribe to that to get those updates no matter where you watch the show. U.S. President Donald Trump delivered a speech from the Oval Office this week. His goal was to discuss what the United States government was doing to protect Americans from the new coronavirus and to reassure them that it would eventually pass.
We have been in frequent contact with our allies, and we are marshaling the full power of the federal government and the private sector to protect the American people. This is the most aggressive and comprehensive effort to confront a foreign virus in modern history. I am confident that by counting and continuing to take these tough measures, we will significantly reduce the threat to our citizens, and we will ultimately and expeditiously defeat this virus.
So what are some key parts of that effort? The president says with some exceptions, travel from Europe to the United States will be suspended for a month. Health industry executives have agreed to make coronavirus treatments cheaper and easier to get. Tax relief is ahead for some businesses that are losing revenue because of the pandemic. The president says no nation is more prepared or resilient than the United States. But some Democrats and Republicans on Capitol Hill were questioning that preparedness yesterday. One issue they had was with coronavirus testing. They say it's not as widely available in America as it is in some other countries like South Korea, and that's a problem. As the disease spreads, its effects are spreading as well. The U.S. Capitol is now closed to visitors. The Metropolitan Museum of Art has closed. The National Basketball League has suspended all of its games. The National Hockey League announced the same thing yesterday. Major League Baseball has suspended spring training. March Madness has been canceled. Disneyland is closed. Around the world, there have been cancellations and closures like these, sometimes including countries' borders, and international stock markets have seen dramatic swings and losses. Because of this week's drops in U.S. stocks, Wall Street is now said to be in bear market territory.
So we talk about being in a bear market.
People were panicking.
The market is not functioning properly.
What exactly is a bear market? It's when stocks drop 20% from recent highs. When we talk about the overall stock market, we usually look at a broad index like the S&P 500. But individual stocks or commodities can also fall into a bear market if they decline 20%. Now, a bear market is different from a correction. That's a 10% decline. So if the S&P falls into a bear market, it's already had a correction and then fallen another 10%. Since World War II, there have been 13 bear markets for the S&P 500. A bear market doesn't always signal a severe economic downturn. In the last 40 years, 4 bear markets have occurred without a recession. But the drops that coincide with recessions tend to be worse. The good news is bear markets don't tend to last as long as bull markets. The average lasted 362 days and declined nearly 32%. But history shows it takes about a year for stocks to fully bounce back.
10-second trivia. Geographically, which of these nations is closest to Japan? China, North Korea, South Korea, or Philippines? The Korean Peninsula became independent from Japan in 1945, and South Korea is its closest neighbor. Getting medical supplies to hospitals and people who need them. Developing vaccines. These are some actions being paid for by an $8.3 billion funding bill that President Trump recently signed into law. Other countries are also spending millions to come up with a coronavirus vaccine, and though one of those doesn't exist yet, testing kits do. And as you heard earlier, South Korea has been seen as a model for coronavirus testing. How can the efforts of a nation that's about the size of Indiana potentially benefit larger countries?
Since the start of the coronavirus outbreak, South Korea has aggressively tested for the disease. With the help of drive-through testing facilities that speed up the process, South Korea has already tested more than 220,000 people. The quick rollout made possible thanks to fast work by Korean biotech companies like Seegene, which gave CNN exclusive access to its research facilities. This is the laboratory where a team of scientists came up with the test kit for diagnosing coronavirus, and they did it in under 3 weeks.
When we starting, we did not expect this kind of the pandemic or outbreak happen in Korea. Nobody expected at all.
Chun Jong-yoon is the founder and CEO of Seegene, a company that designs and sells test kits to identify at least 160 different kinds of diseases. In mid-January, Chun says he first instructed his researchers to invent a new test for coronavirus, which was then starting its deadly spread across China.
So you guys were already working on coronavirus before the first confirmed case of the illness in South Korea.
Yeah, just hearing the news from the China, we thought it will be impact on the Korean peninsula, so we thought that it's emergency cases.
The molecular microbiologists got to work without ever having a physical sample of the virus. Instead, they relied on a genetic blueprint of the new virus distributed by the World Health Organization and health officials in China, highlighting 3 specific genes. Seegene's scientists then had to come up with a way of spotting those coronavirus genes in future samples taken from patients.
Was there more pressure than usual?
Yeah, because it's an emergency case, rapidly spreading the coronavirus into our countries.
Not long ago, it would have taken Seegene 2 months to a year to come up with a test. But using artificial intelligence,
You were able to come up with a test in less than 2 weeks.
Right.
That's pretty quick.
Yeah, very quick.
Chun says on February 12th, the Korean government fast-tracked approval of the new coronavirus test kit less than a month after Seegene started working on it.
These 6 vials, some of which only contain a teardrop worth of solution, are what you need to conduct tests on 100 patients for coronavirus.
And that can be completed in just 4 hours. Seegene is now working overtime, even drafting scientists with PhDs to work on the assembly line.
That's how much demand there is right now.
Yes, crazy demand. Not only from domestic market, also from the overseas market.
The demand is urgent because identifying coronavirus is one of the best ways to stop the spread of this disease. Ivan Watson, CNN, Seoul.
The riveting rescue of Rockstar Freddy. Of course it's worth 10 out of 10. Rockstar Freddy is a teddy. It belongs to a kindergartner in Florida, but for some reason, a first grader threw it onto the roof of the school, and the teddy bear's owner was crushed. But that's when the Cape Coral Fire Department got involved. They were probably relieved Rockstar Freddy wasn't a cat, and they pulled out all the stops to pull the teddy off the roof. So they didn't need to raise the roof to save the stranded teddy. You betty that they're ready when there's a bare need for Freddy. They held steady and they didn't blush. Even if the thing was plush, bet you that it's still a rush saving something stuffed. Call it fluff, call it guff, but don't ever say they bluffed because Freddy's now home safe and for his owner, that's enough. Pun raps are unbearable, y'all. I'm Carl Azuz, and today's show goes out to Palestine Wheatley High School. It's in Palestine, Arkansas. Let's go, Patriots!